Hi, my name is Taylor. I just started to start a YouTube channel. So this is gonna be my first video. I decided to wear a breast cancer shirt since it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I'm not going to really get into the details. I don't feel like all of it is necessarily needed for right now. But I'm going to share what all happened to me. So it was last week, and I was in my class, my college class. It's my first semester. It was in my communications class, and I felt very passionate about the conversation we were having. We were talking about emotions, and we just finished reading the chapter, and it really was speaking to me, like what we were talking about. And I had people in my class. I have a few gay people in my class, and I'm not a judgmental person. I really just don't care what people do. As long as you're being a good person, period, I don't care. And there's a guy in my class who's gay, and he just came out to his family a week or two ago, and he feels so alone and super helpless, and it's such a hard time for him. And I was hearing all these stories, and I felt like I needed to share mine to be able to show them that there is a good side to everything, no matter the situation. And I wrote myself a note while we were speaking, and I pulled my teacher aside and was like, hey, I would like to share my story with the class. And she was like, okay, like, can you give me some pointers what it's about? And I was just like, okay. So I did a general, I told her, has to do with life in general and sexual assault and a lot of other things that I feel like need to be talked about. We have to talk about these uncomfortable things to be able to move forward as not only like a person and an individual, but as a society. So, I had points that I was going to go down these points, and I was going to, share with my class. And once I got up there, she was like, come down to the front of the classroom, and I grabbed a chair. I dragged it all the way down to the front of the classroom, and I sat down, crisscross applesauce, and I mentally prepared myself. I was like, you got this. So I gave them some background on my life, and after that, I got into my story. And sexual assault is something that is very serious, and I am very passionate about women empowerment in general, because sexual assault is happening all the time, every day, everywhere, and it needs to be talked about. So I will post a later video having to do with the depth of my story. But for now, we're getting to the point, which is when I was in class. So, I gave them some background on my life. I told them how it was when I was a kid and all the transitions I've had with elementary school, middle school, high school, private school, public school. I'm transitioning from high school to college and all these new things that you have to experience yourself. And I told them that I was sexually assaulted. I told them my story. I told them everything. I did not get into all the gory details, but, I told them. I was sitting there in the front of the classroom, bawling my eyes out. I was crying. I was so just taken back when I was sharing this. And, I tried to explain to them that You know, this happened to me for a reason. This is a horrible thing, but it was to make me stronger. And it's so cheesy that I'm going to say this, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, and I told that to my class. I said how cheesy it was and that it sucks when it's you. Why couldn't it be somebody else? And I wanted to hate so much. I wanted to hit and punch and scream and kick, and I just wanted to do so many things and make that person who did that to me, I wanted to make their life horrible. And I realized that if I was going to live my life with this hatred inside of me, that I was not ever going to move on, and I was never going to be happy again. And, you know, I was at the peak of my life. I had a full-time job. I was finishing high school. I was starting college, and I just got a boyfriend, and all these things were happening to me, and bam, I was sexually assaulted. Like, words can't even describe how you feel, because, you know, you're so alone in that moment, and it took me a long time to be okay with myself and be able to be alone again. In general, like, I couldn't sleep at night. I spent sleepless nights all the time. I couldn't go out to the store by myself. I couldn't do anything by myself. I had to have somebody with me all the time to be able to do normal human being things. And, you know, becoming independent again was like being a child and having to grow. I want people to understand, yes, I am a victim, but no, I will not be treated like one. I will not allow people to tiptoe around me and feel like I'm handicapped. I'm not going to be like that. I am a strong, brave, independent woman who is going to fight this. You know, I came out and I told my family, and we went through with the court, and I hate the court system, but you have to do it. You have to. Because how could somebody do that to you and feel so comfortable with it? They have done that before. And even if you were the first person that it has happened to by that person, you have to speak up, or it's going to continue to happen to other females around. And it's not even just females, is the thing. Like, this is a situation that happens to males and females. And the fact that we are only talking about the females, yes, it is more serious for us, but it's happening to males too. Picture what happened to that little boy and how his whole life has changed because of it. And yes, my life has changed, but I'm not going to handicap myself. I'm going to grow, and I'm going to show people that it is going to be okay. I want to hate. I want to hurt him. I did for a long time, but I can't. I forgave, and if you hold on to that hatred in your heart, you'll never live a happy life that you were supposed to. But I told my class, and my class, you know, I looked around in the classroom, and I saw people crying, you know. Some people, no emotions. But some people I saw crying because it was a sad story, you know. Telling them what happened to me, it was sad. And I saw other people crying, and it went much deeper than that for them. And it hurt my heart. But I passed around these little note cards in my class. And, okay, they're big note cards. But I passed them around, and I was like, I had some questions. You know, I want you guys to write them down, but I forgot to do that in the beginning. I was like, what all do you think of me, and why? So my teacher was like, since we didn't do this in the beginning, why don't we all just say some things that we feel about Taylor? And I'm like, okay. I'm sitting there in the front of the classroom, and she's they're shouting these words to me. They're like, oh my gosh, it just made my heart so happy. They were like, strong and brave and beautiful and positive and all these beautiful things, and it made my heart happy, because I try to be this good person, and I try so hard to let people know, you got this. You're a good person, and everything's gonna work out in the end. And I was stressing this to them. I was like, I'm sharing my story not for your sympathy. I'm sharing this story to show you that there is a better side to everything. You can get through this. You got this. Like, I was just trying to tell them that, and as they were shouting these words to me, like, I was speechless. I just sat there and I covered my mouth and I was crying. I was like, well, thank you. I try to be these things not only for myself, but for people around me, and it was hard. I had to have balls to do that, And, some people wrote down some messages. I could read them in a later video, but they wrote down these amazing things on these note cards, and, my teacher got up, she came and she hugged me. And I'm walking back to my seat, and this girl right in the front row, she grabs my hand, and she hugged me, she pulled me in, and she was like, can I give you a hug? And I was like, yeah, of course, you can give me a hug. And we're hugging, and she hands me this note card that's folded up. And I walk back to my seat. I didn't know what to do. I can't believe I just did that. And I walk back to my seat, and everyone in my classroom is coming up to me, and they're like, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story with me. And I was like, what do you mean? It was my duty, I feel like I needed to do that. As another human being, I needed to share my story so that, people know they're not alone. I had that guy who has been struggling. He came up to me and he was just like, you made my whole day. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story with me. I was like, you're welcome. Everyone is coming up to me and handing me their note cards with notes on them. Like, they wrote me little messages, and they're hugging me, and they're whispering things in my ear, and I'm just so overwhelmed with joy. I can hardly hear half of what these people are saying to me, And it was hard. But I watched everyone walk out of that room, and their lives were changed a little bit, They didn't feel so alone anymore. And that day I did my job. I shared my story, and I put some smiles on people's faces, and I helped everyone feel not so alone anymore. So, my friend, who I called shortly after, I told her what happened, and she was like, I'm gonna cry. I was like, what? She was like, I'm just so happy that you did this. And it was so hard. And she said, I just wish I could have been there. I wish I could have seen that, because when I have my bad days, I want to see that, because you make me happy, She was saying how I'm so strong for doing this, and that she was like, you should make a video. I was like, what? So here I am making a video for her on her bad days, and I wanted to share a little bit with everyone. And with that being said, I think I'm done. if I get some more views and some people would like to hear more, comment, like, subscribe. Bye.